slipped away down the long gray firth in the light of glass of Galadriel that Frodo bore glimmered and was lost. And then the ship went out into the high sea and passed out into the west, until at last on a night of rain Frodo smelled a sweet fragrance on the air, and heard the sound of singing that came over the water. And then it seemed to him that as in his dream in the house of Bombadil, the gray rain curtain turned all to silver glass and was rolled back, and he beheld white shores, and beyond them a far green country under a swift sunrise. But to Sam the evening deepened to darkness as he stood at the haven, and as he looked as the gray sea he saw only a shadow on the waters, and that was soon lost in the west. So I believe, I guess they really were actually making a journey, but it kind of makes you wonder, like, symbolism, like maybe like he didn't survive that wound. Like maybe this was, never know, like maybe with all the dreams they had in this book, maybe this was all in like Sam's head after he died. But
that's really interesting too that you mentioned it, because I could see, it almost that visualization talking about what Frodo saw. I guess that could be a symbolism of like heaven, right? Like you've passed on into paradise, right? These white shores, this beautiful grass country, this sweet smell of fragrance. Like it almost seems that as everything was all good. But remember, they're called Undying Lands, and that's where the elves come from. So I think it's a real place. But I could definitely see the argument for it being a symbolism for, they went into like the final paradise. They finally were at rest after, all the years of turmoil that they had. And so the only thing I would say to kind of combat that in a way is, says, when talking about when Frodo and Sam have a conversation about where Frodo's going, it says, then Bilbo woke up and opened his eyes. Hello, Frodo. Well, I have passed the old Took today, so that's settled, and now I think I'm quite ready to go on another journey. Are you coming? Yes, I am coming, said Frodo. The ring-bearers should go together. Where are you going, master? Cried Sam, though at last he understood what was happening. To the havens, Sam, said Frodo. And I can't come? Asked Sam. No, Sam. Not yet, anyways. Not further than the havens, though you too were a ring-bearer, if only for a little while. Your time may come. Do not be too sad, Sam. You cannot be always torn in two. You will have to be one and whole for many years. You have so much to enjoy and to be and to do. But, said Sam, and his tears started in his eyes, I thought you were going to enjoy the Shire for years and years after all you've done. So I thought too once, but I have been deeply hurt. I tried to save the Shire, and it has been saved, but not for me. And it must often be so, Sam. When things are in danger, someone has to give them up and lose them so that others may keep them. But you are my heir, and all that I had and might have had I leave to you. You also have Rose, and Eleanor, and Frodo lad will come, and Rosie lass, and Mary, and Goldilocks, and Pippin, and perhaps more than I cannot see. Your hands and your wits will be needed everywhere. You will be the mayor, of course, as long as you want to be, and the most famous gardener in history, and you will read things out of the Red Book and keep alive the memory of the age that is gone, so people remember the great danger, and so their beloved land will be loved all the more. And that will keep you busy and as happy as anyone can be, as long as your part of the story goes on. So for me, it's like you can come join me, but now is not the time for you. You still have got more work to do here. So that's just kind of the way I took it. Like, they are going to the Undying Lands, and Sam is going to be welcome there once it's his time. And again, I guess that could also be a symbolism for, the gates of heaven can open up for you, and you too will be in paradise because of all the sacrifices you've made along the way. But that's a really good question, man. I don't have a specific answer. But the thing is, we've always heard about these Undying Lands that the elves are returning to. After some of them were leaving already when the Battle of Middle Earth was still going on, before we had the resolution of if the ring was going to be destroyed or not. And so, I always look to them as a real place. But I could definitely see the symbolism as it being paradise and a place of final rest type of deal. So I don't know. I think it's open to interpretation for sure.
Yeah, and here's another sentence I found that kind of backs where you could look at it both ways, which is really interesting. If you go back to the chapter, The Scoring of the Shire, that we covered today, when Frodo releases, I guess you can say releases Saruman, like lets him go free. Saruman says, well, I go and I will trouble you no more, but do not expect me to wish you health and long life. You will have neither. But that is not my doing. I merely foretell. So, like, that's interesting, right? Like, it's just interesting. I still believe, like, because I always want to try to look at things straightforward, because I'm just that kind of person. So I believe what you're saying, but I could definitely see the case as well. Like, maybe at this very end here, this is almost just like going on in Sam's head after Frodo didn't make it, kind of thing, and Gandalf is gone. But who knows?
See, I don't see it as like going on in Sam's head. I think if anything, it was like they sailed on the ship and maybe like because once you go the Undying Lands, like you can't return, is what they're saying. So maybe the Undying Lands themselves are a symbolism for paradise, for like what happens after life, like for those the special people that have done great deeds and have heavy sacrifice are able to come. Like so, it's like that. The Undying Lands themselves are kind of like the Garden of Eden or something along the lines of the gates of heaven. I could see that more than I think it like happened in Sam's head. I think maybe this place could be. You could make the argument that the Undying Lands themselves and going there, that is like the life after death type of deal.
Like you will kind of like would you say that's kind of like the veil in Order of the Phoenix?
Maybe, because the veil seemed like almost like in a negative way. Like you step through it and then like you can't come back, but it's like you have like your whispers echo across the thing. So I don't know, when I think of the veil in the Order of the Phoenix, I think of it more as a negative thing, where this is where it had that sort of like rain veil thing that I was talking about in there. It's almost like the gates opening up and you're in paradise now. Like everything that you've done, there's no more hard times. You're finally at rest, whether that be no longer alive in the physical realm, or maybe it is a physical place and you just everything's all great and peaceful there and nothing bad happens. I don't know. I think that the biggest argument are the Undying Lands actually a place that exists in life as we know it, or are they a symbolism of an afterlife? I think that's the big balance we got to figure out of what the symbolism of that is.